As our third step in thinking about how we can use that image file data to start changing our adaptive panel elements, let's go ahead and think about overriding some of the panel display colors. Well, we've been doing that so far using the element override color in view by just taking that list of color values and mapping them to the panel elements. But let's think about how we can also start adjusting the panel parameters based on the color values. So the idea is that the different image color samples, all those different little image colors have a couple different values we can pull off from the color. There's a function called or node called color.hue, which kind of is based on the hue value, 1 to 255. There's another one called color.brightness, which is based on the brightness value of the color that's been sampled. So we can pull some different numeric values out and then scale those values using the math remap range. Okay, basically feeding in those values and then mapping those or remapping them to, the highest value and the lowest value we'd want to set for a parameter. Okay, just based on the values that are coming through as the hue and brightness values. So somewhere between 1 to 255, we're going to map that into, if we're going to set the panel parameter height. Okay, we're going to think about just what range of heights we'd actually like to see associated with the lowest hue or the lowest brightness all the way up to the greatest hue and brightness. Okay, and then we'll go through and just set those parameters, set the height values as well as setting the name, setting parameter by name to change the flip if those things are flipped in as opposed to flipped out. Okay, so let's take a look at how that is implemented. Okay, so we have already been working with the override panel display colors. Okay, so element override color in view. We've taken that list of things, we've taken the panels, and we've basically been applying those colors, and that's what's showing up over in the Revit window now. So now let's think about this whole issue of really, can we go through and just compute these color and brightness values? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this list of colors, which is sorted into whatever order we've chosen, flatten that on out because it has some hierarchy to it. And I don't want it to have hierarchy. I just want it to be a flat list of numbers. Okay, so let me zoom on in there a little bit. I can actually click on down there. Well, that didn't work very well. I have this very long group that I'm watching. Okay, so I have this flat list of colors. Let's just run that right now. Okay, what I want to do is basically pull off the hue values and pull off the brightness values. So we can see there's some different values in there. For the hue values, it goes everywhere from 0 all the way up to 255. For the brightness values, again, it'll go everywhere from a very low value to a very high value. For example, this is very bright in here. That is not very bright in there. So depending on which stripe you're looking at, you'll get very different brightness values. And the idea is we want to take those values, which are going to range anywhere from 0 to 255, and we want to remap them a little bit. What we're going to do is ultimately set the panel heights based on those values. Okay, so what I want to think of, if I took the numbers anywhere from like 0 to 255 and remap them into heights, what would be the highest and lowest I'd consider? So maybe a height of 1 all the way up to a height of 50. Okay, that'd be a pretty visible change in heights. Let's go through and take that list of heights, and we're basically going to just set that parameter name, okay, based on those hue values. Now, you may be looking at it and saying, hey, it didn't really do very much. And the problem is, with this surface, when the panels got placed, they got placed in such a way that they are growing down. Okay, the normal is kind of pointing down. So we basically need to flip those panels if we want to have them growing up instead. So here's how we're going to do that. We're going to take those same elements and also set the parameter flip for the elements. Let me kind of show you what that looks like. So I can choose a specific element, go to its properties, and it has a parameter over here called flip. And if you flip it, it'll grow up as opposed to down. Let that finish spinning around there. Wasn't very dramatic, but it popped up a little bit. Okay, and we're going to do something similar. We're basically going to take all the different elements and set the flip parameter to true. Because when I do that, okay, you get something that looks much more like what you want. Okay, so what is this based on? This looks like this was based on the hue values. Okay, so depending on the hue of the different colors, things are changing quite a bit. If we want to do that instead of based on the brightness values, we could do that. Let's go try that instead. I think you can see now here that things step back pretty well from the darkest colors to the brightest colors, so the heights keep on getting greater and greater. That white band looks like it's sort of blocking everything because it's all pretty much the same height there. Okay, so now you can go ahead and try this with your element. Now, there's a couple ways you could use this. You could use this to set the height parameter just by raising up to that height. That gives you more of what I'll call a deboss effect. You're sort of raising things up. If you want more of what I call an emboss effect, where you actually recess the image down into the surface, what you do is you'd take a base height and subtract that value from that height. That way you'd kind of carve into the surface based on the color values as opposed to raising up above them. But either way, it'll sort of work. Okay, so that's the basic approach to how we can use the image data. If you can get the color data sampled and then convert those into numeric values, you can again just apply it directly as a color override or start to actually create more of a, what would I call this effect? Yeah, it's just kind of a textured effect where, pop that out there. Oh, there are color overrides existing even in the hidden line view. Interesting. Okay, well, it's basically sort of more based on kind of the form and texture as opposed to the color itself. But you can kind of decide which effect you want to apply to your structure.